We are a peaceful people. Struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, daytime or night. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people. Struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, daytime or night. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people, struggle is always struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know, we gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here, and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, cause we ain't giving not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people, struggle is always struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know, we gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here, and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, daytime or night. Though we may criticize.
Members, the speaker.
Honorable members, I declare this 63rd sitting of the National Assembly of the 12th Parliament of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana to be duly constituted and in session. The clerk will lead us in prayers.
Almighty God, we are here gathered together, the most humbly beseech thee, to guide us in all our consultations, so that we may together build a land where knowledge is free, where the mind the depth of truth. Grant us, O God, the need and guidance that we may deal justly with the several causes that come before us, laying aside all private interests, prejudices, and personal preferences, so that the result of our counsels totally that all the people of this fair went into that state of brotherly unity, with the mind is empowered into ever-widening thought and action.
Thank you. Honorable members, please be seated.
Messages from the President. Vote of a new member.
Honorable members, we had the resignation of Mr. Lennox Ron Odell Schumann. Following Mr. Schumann's resignation and my call upon the representative of the list of the new movement and a new and united Guyana list of candidates, I have been informed that the name of Dr. Asha Kissoon was extracted from the list and that Dr. Kissoon was on the 1st of April 2023 declared by the Elections Commission Secretariat to be an elected member of the National Assembly. Before Dr. Kissoon can take part in the proceedings of the Assembly, she will have to make and subscribe the oath of office before the Assembly, as required by Article 167 of the Constitution. As Dr. Kissoon is present, she can now make and subscribe the oath, which will be administered to her by the clerk. Dr. Kissoon.
I, Asha Kissoon, do hereby solemnly declare that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the people of Guyana, that I will faithfully execute the office of member of the National Assembly without fear or favor, affection or ill will, and that in the execution of functions of that office, I will honor, uphold, and preserve the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana.
Thank you. Sorry. Messages from the President. Announcements by the Speaker.
Honorable members, I would like on behalf of all of you and also on my own behalf to congratulate Dr. Asha Kissoon on her becoming a member of the National Assembly. Dr. Kissoon, honorable member, I welcome you to the Assembly and extend our best wishes to you.
With your permission, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Leader of the Opposition,
I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the opposition members of Parliament to welcome Dr. Kissoon to the National Assembly, and we hope you have both an enjoyable and a productive involvement in this assembly.
Thank you very much, Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, may I take this opportunity to also welcome our newest Member of Parliament, Dr. Kissoon, to this House, and we look forward to your contributions to the work of this House. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister. Please do not consider this Dr. Kissoon's first presentation. I just would like her to offer some remarks on these congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All protocols observed. First of all, I would like to start by saying thank you for the welcome remarks. I do pray that God blesses our leaders, both on the government and opposition side, with knowledge, wisdom, and the strength to lead our country to where it needs to be. Today I stand before you, and I would like to say that it is an honor to stand here and be able to represent our constituency and the people who voted for us. I do give my word and my dedication that I will represent my office with much dignity and honor going forward. I would like to give a reminder to the persons at home and who are here present that with all the international uncertainty that's going on, Guyana needs to lead by example on an international scale. And I urge our leaders, myself included, as we go forward, that we put the people of Guyana first. We must remember that even though we say we're one Guyana, one people, we need to value and appreciate our unity in our diversity. Appreciate the different ethnic groups in Guyana as we go forward. As I stand before you, I not only aim to enforce change, but much improvement where it's needed. So I thank you all today.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Dr. Kissoon. I have a few more announcements. First, we have a number of MPs joining online, including the Honorable Minister of Amerindian Affairs, Pauline Sukai, and the Honorable Member, Mr. Charlie. During the budget debate, references were made to last government, last regime, this government, this regime. And I did receive a letter from the Honorable Member, Ms. Valda Lawrence, raising some concerns with respect to the collective accusations being made on all two sides. And she made objection, well, not objections, but she drew my attention to the fact that there are sitting members of the last government in the House. I wish to say that there are sitting members from the last government in the House and the last government in the House. And I consider those references as a collective and not a particular indictment. She also raised the concern that reference was made by the Honorable Minister Indar to the previous Finance Minister, and that was particular. And I uphold that observation she made, and I've asked the clerk to strike those references from the records. On a final note of announcements, on the 27th of April 1953, Guyana saw its first election on the universal adult suffrage. And what we can consider the first fully elected internal government was elected on the 27th of April. So we are now in our 70th anniversary. the members of parliament who were elected then were sworn in on the 18th of May, 1953. So on the 18th of May is another significant date when the first elected members of parliament on the universal adult suffrage was sworn in, and the first ceremonial opening of the parliament was on the 30th of May. We are going to circulate some of the information that we have with respect to those historic elections and the parliament. At the Parliamentary Management Committee level, we are going to be looking at a few initiatives that we are looking at a few initiatives to commemorate our 70th anniversary, which is, in my view, very, very significant. So we are now almost 2 generations as a parliament. I said I would bring this to your attention. And finally, we have concluded at the Parliamentary Management Committee our recommendations for the dress code, and we will circulate that shortly, and there will be a bit more latitude so that what the Honorable Member Mr. Cox is wearing would not attract any objections from anyone. So look forward to that. Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk.
Presentation of petitions, presentation of papers and reports, etc.
Honorable members, I present to the Assembly minutes of the proceedings of the 11th meeting of the Committee of Selection, which was held on Tuesday, the 14th of February, 2023. The Honorable Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance has been excused from today's sitting, but has asked the Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs to lay the papers in his name. Honorable Member, Ms. Gail Teixeira.
Mr. Speaker, it's with pleasure I present on behalf of the Minister of Finance in the Office of the President to present the Treasury Memorandum pursuant to Resolution number 46 of 2022, dated November 30th, 2022, on the public accounts of Guyana for the year ended 31st of October 2016. I also wish to present the Government Notice number 2 of 2023 regarding notification receipts of all petroleum revenues paid into the Natural Resource Fund during the period the 1st of January 2023 to the 31st of March 2023. I also wish to present the Government Concessional Loan Agreement, GCL number 2023-1, total number 769, dated 8th March 2023, between the Government of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and the Export-Import Bank of China for an amount of renminbi yuan 384,580,867 and 13, whatever is the cents for that, to finance the Guyana East Coast MR Road Project Phase 3. In addition, the financial paper number 1 of 2023 supplementary estimates capital advances made from the contingency fund totaling $4,743 million for the period 2023-03-01 to 2023-04-2020. Financial paper number 2 of 2023 supplementary estimates capital totaling $26,532 million for the period ending 2023 12/31. Beg pardon. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, are you naming a date for the consideration of those papers?
Sorry, the supplementary financial papers will be debated at the next sitting of the Parliament.
Thank you. Honorable Minister of Public Works.
You wish.
Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly audited financial statements of the Chedijagan International Airport Corporation for the year ended 31st of December, 2021.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Minister of Natural Resources, Mr. Vikram Bharat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. Mr. Speaker, I wish to present to the Assembly the Voluntary Partnership Agreement, VPA, between the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and the European Union on forest law, enforcement, governance, and trade in timber products to the European Union. Mr. Speaker, if I may, for a few minutes. This, Mr. Speaker, is another landmark agreement. As a matter of fact, we are only the second country in the world that is in a position to be FLET licensed after Indonesia. And we are the only country in the world to have signed the Voluntary Partnership Agreement as well as the Forest Partnership Agreement with the European Union, both signed in the last quarter of 2022. Mr. Speaker, the consultative process had started since 2012 after a policy decision was made that we will engage the European Union to sign such an agreement so that there is a legal traceability of our timber products, thereby enhancing our market share, especially in the European Union. So this process has been ongoing since 2012, and I am quite sure that the opposition members, those who are involved in the sector, are very familiar with the Voluntary Partnership Agreement and Guyana being FLET licensed because they were also part of those consultations. As a matter of fact, in 2018, it was initial after the negotiations would have been completed and then signed in November of 2022 at COP15. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The Honorable Member, Mr. Jermaine Figueroa, Chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly the Rules, Policies, and Procedures Manual Amendment, Regulations 2023, number 4 of 2023.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Reports from committees.
Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance and Chairperson of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Appointments.
Thank you, sir. I wish, Mr. Speaker, to present to the Assembly the 8th report of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Appointments in relation to the appointment of members to the Public Service Commission.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Dr. Karen Cummings, Chairperson of the Parliamentary Sectoral Committee on Social Services.
Be it resolved that the first special report of the Parliamentary Sectoral Committee on Social Services be adopted.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Mr. Clerk.
Oral questions without notice.
Honorable Members, I received an email from the Honorable Member Miss Amanza Desir. Just give me 1 second, let me get to the right. Yes. Well, a question to the Honorable Minister Hugh Todd. And the question was received last evening, was sent earlier. I'm not going to be allowing it because, of course, because there are formats for these questions. And this is what the question said. Please be advised, and I'm quoting further, that we intend to ask the following question at the next sitting of the Assembly. Honorable members, the Speaker is not advised. Persons seeking to address the Assembly on questions, etc., seek leave of the Assembly or the Speaker. They plead with, they request, or they beg, but they don't tell the Assembly. And we must, and I will enforce the standing orders. Honorable members, so the question can come again in the proper format and it will be entertained. Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Clerk?
Questions on notice.
Mr. Speaker, I am on my
Mr.
feet.
Clerk, already be a question on notice. Do you have a question on notice? I'll address that.
Sir, I am asking you, I think as a member of the National Assembly, I have the power to, I have the right to ask a question without
Honorable
notice.
member, can you
Do
please
I?
take your seat and let us
Mr.
move on with
Speaker,
the
please,
agenda?
You are providing guidance.
I did.
And I am asking you
Yes.
to provide guidance.
I did.
Am I to understand you as saying we are at the point in the agenda
Questions
of
without
oral
notice we have
questions
passed.
without notice?
Yes.
You are saying that we have to have approval to stand here and to ask questions because without notice, because I have questions for the Honorable Prime Minister that I wish to ask.
Honorable member, the standing order is very, honorable members, the standing orders are quite clear with respect to issues of questions. Leave must be sought. Leave must be sought. And in this case, leave wasn't sought. The Speaker was being advised that this will be done, which is contrary to the standing orders. Thank you very much.
I see. Okay.
Honorable members, there are 14 questions on today's order paper. Questions 1 to 11 are for written replies. Questions number 12, 13, and 14 are for oral replies. Question 1 is in the name of the Honorable Member, Ms. Valda Lawrence, and is for the Honorable Minister of Public Works. Questions number 2, 3, and 4 are in the name of the Honorable Member, Mr. Vince Roy Jordan, and are for the Honorable Minister of Housing and Water. Questions number 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are in the name of the Honorable Member, Ms. Annette Ferguson, and are for the Honorable Minister of Housing and Water. Question number 10 and 11 are in the name of the Honorable Member, Ms. Amanza Walton Desir, and are for the Honorable Member, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. The answer to these questions have been received and have therefore, according to the standing orders, been circulated. For oral replies, question number 12, the Honorable Member, Mr. Ganesh Mahipal. You may ask your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Comrade Speaker. Comrade Speaker, I noticed that the subject minister to which I have to put these questions to is not in the House. May I ask that we defer the questions to the next sitting of the National Assembly, or is there another minister that will endeavor to answer?
Yes, I've been advised that the Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs will actually seek that deferral to the next sitting. Honorable Member, Mr. Shearer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maipal. Mr. Speaker, yes, Minister Ashni Singh is not here. He's asked for me to ask for deferral for the next sitting. Is that acceptable? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
We have, yes, so all the questions for the Honorable Finance Minister Ashley Singh will be deferred. Mr. Clerk.
Statements by ministers, including policy statements, personal explanations, requests for leave to move the adjournment of the National Assembly on definite matters of urgent public importance.
Honorable members, I received an email from the Honorable Member Ms. Cathy Hughes, and it said that I have been asked to write to you on behalf of the Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Aubrey Norton, MP, to inform that at this morning's session of Parliament, he wishes to stand to address an issue of national importance. We look forward to informing the House on this critical issue for your information and guidance. Honorable members, I wish to state again, on the Standing Order 12, it says, any member may at any time appointed on the Standing Order number 13, Order of Business, rise in his or her place and ask leave to move the adjournment of the Assembly for the purpose of discussing a definite matter of urgent importance. 2, a member who wishes to ask leave to move the adjournment of the Assembly shall, before the commencement of the sitting, hand to the Speaker a written notification of the matter which he or she wishes to discuss. The Speaker shall refuse to allow the claim unless he or she is satisfied that the matter is definite, urgent, and of public importance and may properly be raised. So there are a number of issues with respect to this notice received from the Honorable Member, Ms. Cathy Hughes. First, the member asking for leave has to write to the Speaker. And in this case, a delegatee is not allowed to. Secondly, we have a convention where these matters come to the Speaker a certain time before, and that time when we meet at 2 o'clock, that time is 11, and for other questions like one of oral questions, at least 4 hours before. The second issue here is that the matter has to be stated. The question of urgent public importance has to be stated. In this case, I neither know what the issue is, nor if it's a question, because from reading the email, it appears that the Leader of the Opposition, through the Honorable Member Ms. Hughes, would like to address the Assembly. And the Chief Whip for the Opposition, we have had an understanding that if there are personal explanations which the Leader of the Opposition would want to make, we can have that particular heading used, the Speaker be informed, and we can consider the request if the Leader of the Opposition wants to address on a matter of personal importance. So there are enough flexibility within our rules, our standing orders, and our agenda for these headings to be used to address concerns. And all I'm asking is that we pay attention to the convention and to the rules, and that we respect the chair the Speaker to exercise his judgment and application of the standing orders to all of these. Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I just have one clarification.
Thank you, Honorable Member, Ms. Hughes.
Thank you. I'm wondering if you could share, just for information, the email, the document, or whatever it is that explained the notice we needed to give if we're meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning. I was actually going through my records this morning and couldn't find any information in terms of what that time frame would be. We know what it is if you're meeting at 2. So I think going forward, if you could share the email or whatever parliamentary document that was explained to us.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I'm a very strong, independent woman. I just want to say that we have a rule in this house that persons that are not sitting in this house, their name should not be mentioned. And therefore, I take objection to my husband's name being mentioned in this house. I sit in this house as an independent woman and see that as verbal abuse. I think it is absolutely unfair, Mr. Speaker, that women in this house...
Okay, you're making an address now, please. Please. I am addressing the issue of time frame. Honorable members, please. When we met at 2 o'clock, the time was 11 o'clock. And in the standing order says for oral question 4 hours. So I've applied that principle 4 hours before with respect to the time. Yes, the sitting. The email, I have no problems. I have no problems with email. I accept them. I don't, right? So, and when for the official records, persons who are mentioned, names of those persons are mentioned officially, I always raise an objection and would expunge any references that may slip by. Mr. Clerk?
Motions relating to the business or sittings of the National Assembly and moved by Minister.
Honorable members, come on, we're early and we haven't been here for a long time, please.
Introduction of bills.
Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs. Honorable members, please.
May it please Your Honor, I rise to request that the bill number 4 of 2023, Foreign Judgment Reciprocal Enforcement Bill 2023, be read for the first time.
Honorable members, we're dealing with the Foreign Judgments Reciprocal Enforcement Bill 2023, Bill number 4 of 2023, and the Honorable Minister has asked that the bill be read the first time. Let the bill be read the first time.
Foreign Judgment Reciprocal Enforcement Bill 2023, Bill number 4 of 2023.
Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs.
How many years you are elected from?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to request that Bill number 5 of 2023, National Intelligence and Security Agency Bill 2023, be read for the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
National Intelligence and Security Agency Bill 2023, Bill number 5 of 2023.
Honorable Minister of Human Services and Social Security.
Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly the Combating of Trafficking in Persons Bill 2023, Bill number 6 of 2023. A bill introduced an act to provide comprehensive measures to combat trafficking in persons and for connected matters. And I move that the bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
The Combating of Trafficking in Persons Bill 2023, Bill number 6 of 2023.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I present to the Assembly Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2023, Bill number 7 of 2023. A bill entitled An Act to Amend the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Act. And I move that the bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2023, Bill number 7 of 2023. Public business, government's business.
Honorable members, we will now proceed with the second reading of the Planning and Development Single Window System Bill 2022, Bill number 26 of 2022, published on the 5th of December 2022. Honorable Minister of Housing and Water.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the Planning and Development Single Window System Bill 2022, Bill number 26 of 2022, published on the 5th of December 2022, be now read a second time. Mr. Speaker, it is my honor to present Bill number 26 of 2022, Planning and Development Single Window System in this noble House. Mr. Speaker, this bill seeks to establish the Planning and Development Single Window System, set out the management and implementation of the system, establish and identify the functions of a small secretariat to provide administrative oversight, situate the functions pertaining to land use planning and development, establish a quasi-judicial appeal tribunal, provide for consequential amendments to other pieces of legislation to avoid duplication and overlap. The bill, Mr. Speaker, provides for a single entry point and platform for the submission, processing, and approval of all planning and development applications. Such applications and other related documents can be submitted from anywhere online when the IT solution is implemented. It is also contemplated, Mr. Speaker, that the requisite fees can be made and apportioned electronically once the regulatory approvals have been obtained. The Central Housing and Planning Authority, the implementing agency for the approvals, will be maintaining both a paper-based and an electronic system during the transition and beyond to ensure that individuals without access to computers and those living in remote parts of the country can still submit in person or manually planning and development applications. It is for that reason, Mr. Speaker, one of the amendments proposed today which has been circulated is that we have amended, instead of saying electronically and paper, we're amending it to say electronically or paper. The bill imposes an obligation on the central authority to consult and coordinate with identified relevant agencies and prepare an administrative scheme for coordination in respect of expeditious processing of planning and development applications. However, a number of key components of the system will be developed through regulations, and these include the administrative measures relating to the use of the system, the criteria for processing and approving, for preparing first of all and then submitting planning and development applications, and then the timeline for processing and approving planning and development applications. The terms and the conditions that users of the system must comply with, that is in respect to the forms and the fees to be applied. And also, as part of the regulations, would be the manner for making payments, as well as procedures for registration and other details necessary for users' registration. The bill sets out, Mr. Speaker, the procedures for the submission of documents pertaining to environmental protections through the system, and provides for a coordination between the Central Housing and Planning Authority and the EP, or the Environmental Protection Agency. The bill provides for the establishment of a small secretariat to provide administrative oversight. This secretariat will be headed by a director and will have responsibilities that includes overseeing and monitoring the progress in implementing the system, resolve disputes between the authority and relevant agencies in implementing the system, advising the minister on the authority's performance or its functions for the purpose of furthering the efficient and orderly operation of the system, consider and communicate to the minister or advise on the opinion of the committee any matter has been referred. This administrative oversight, Mr. Speaker, the Secretariat, will be reviewed after a year, and the decision will be made as to whether to sunset or continue that Secretariat. And so in essence, it is to ensure that we have a smooth transition. The bill sets out the procedure for an applicant to lodge an appeal against the decision of the Central Housing and Planning Authority in respect of planning and development applications. The appeals tribunal to hear such matters shall be established, and it's clearly outlined in the bill. Mr. Speaker, as we as a country aim to improve on our position on the ease of doing business and reducing or improving on the index, this intervention becomes a necessary tool. What obtains now is a tedium of disparate parts that is costly, laborious, frustrating, and with gaps that often lead to redundancies and inefficiencies, which in turn disincentivize businesses. The platform will bring predictability, Mr. Speaker, will bring less bureaucracy, will bring transparency, will reduce cost and compromise, and most importantly, it will bring structure to what may be seen as some inefficiencies in the system. This is an investment that will bring tremendous dividends to the users and will demonstrate that when we say that Guyana is open for business, our walk matches our talk. Mr. Speaker, this proposed legislation, once approved, will replace the paper existing based system with an electronic portal, as I said, which can be accessed from anywhere in the world. Users will be able to submit their applications and supporting documents electronically. Check, and equally, users will be able to check the status of their application from the comfort of their home or offices, as well as allow decision makers to monitor the performance of the various agencies and ministries, as this legislation includes timelines associated with each component of the process, which will hold all the approving agencies involved in this approval process, which will hold all of them accountable. So, Mr. Speaker, in making the process more efficient, by handing down decisions in a timelier way, there will be a reduction in the number of steps involved in each procedure. Notwithstanding, I hasten to reassure citizens that we will not sacrifice good governance for quick results, but we will continue to ensure that sound planning principles are respected, compliance with all health and safety protocols, that development is consistent with key national and regional objectives. We will continue to ensure that we protect our natural resources and meet our environmentally sustainable goals. And we will continue to ensure that we strengthen, monitor, and enforce. Mr. Speaker, let me further address the substantial parts of the bill. And the new provisions, there will be a single intake for all development applications. The Central Housing and Planning Authority will be that single point of access, whether you are applying for permission to build single unit or major commercial establishments. Applicants may submit those applications through the portal, or recognizing that not everyone has ready access to the internet, the Central Housing and Planning Authority will accept paper-based applications and perform the duty of converting them into electronic format. Please note that no one will be denied the right to submit a paper-based application. CHPA will strengthen its presence in the regions and lend support to the NDCs, its residents, and others to facilitate a smooth transition into the system, in the new system. In fact, Mr. Speaker, as we speak, a team is traveling around the country. The main architects are here today to listen, and they have been traveling, consulting, and seeking input from local and municipal partners to ensure that we are able to continue to work and improve and ensure that we have smooth transition and timely interventions. And so engagements continue with ministries, agencies, RDCs, NDCs to make the relevant or the requisite resources available to facilitate this seamless transition to the new system. We expect, as in any new system that is being implemented, there may be hiccups from time to time, but I can assure you that we will be there to provide that assistance. Mr. Speaker, while the proposed legislation will create a single access point for all applicants, the role of our partners will not change. We will still rely on our partners for their input through this new system and their responses, but it must be time-bound, and that they will have to provide that information within a specified period. That time period will be defined in the administrative scheme provided for in this legislation, because the bill requires that the administrative scheme be put in place 6 months after the proclamation of this legislation, and the staff is consulting with all existing partners on an amicable timeline. But, Mr. Speaker, one of the other components of the proposed legislation is the introduction of a pre-consultation or a pre-submission process. The intention here again is to strengthen transparency of the process. This option will be available for major developments. It would allow proponents to have a discussion with CHPA and all relevant ministries and local government to discuss an investment or a development prior to the application. The intent here, Mr. Speaker, is to pave the way for greater clarity on the requirements and to allow the exchange of ideas between the proponent and the government entities. While this pre-submission consultation is not mandatory, it could be beneficial to all parties and allow for a better outcome. Mr. Speaker, when approved, this legislation will set the stage for the requirement of a complete application before the timeline commences. The requirements of what constitute a complete application will be on the portal, and thus, proponents will be required to complete and attach all the relevant documents prior to the application being uploaded. Not dissimilar to if you are applying for a passport online and all the relevant fields aren't addressed. The system will identify the deficiencies and will not accept the application. This, Mr. Speaker, will eliminate any frivolous application or applications that could potentially clog the system. Once the applicants are successful, or they have successfully uploaded and the fees are paid, CHPA will do a preliminary review and forward the applications to the affected ministries and agencies and local government entities for their review and input. These agencies will also be given a definitive timeline to review and provide feedback. Once comments are received, staff will then prepare the reports and recommendations to the board. Mr. Speaker, to meet the timelines, we are also looking at the option of increasing the frequency of the meetings of the Central Housing and Planning Authority Board. Rather than meeting once a month, the board may be required to have an additional meeting to facilitate timely decision-making. In this regard, the local democratic councils and local public works committee will also need to review the frequency of their meetings. Mr. Speaker, the proposed legislation includes a provision for an appeals tribunal. In this regard, an applicant who is aggrieved by a decision of the board may, within 28 days of the receipt of that appeal, or receipt of the decision first, may appeal against that decision to the Planning Appeals Tribunal by notice in writing. And that tribunal may, one, allow or dismiss the appeal, may uphold the decision of the Central Planning Authority, or reserve or vary the decision of the CHPA. Mr. Speaker, it should be noted that the Planning Appeals Tribunal shall be final unless that there's a declaration that the matter is one of national interest. If such a declaration is made, the decision of the appeals tribunal will be reviewed, and there may be by cabinet a confirmation of the decision, conforming the decision with conditions, or a revocation of the decision. Mr. Speaker, another important feature of this bill is the creation of the Planning Oversight Committee. The committee shall be responsible for overseeing and monitoring the CHPA progress in implementing the system, advising on the performance of its function for the purpose of furthering the efficient and orderly operation of the system. Mr. Speaker, as per the above, this will be an independent committee to ensure the efficacy of the system. Even the CHPA actions will come under scrutiny. This again demonstrates government's commitment to a robust, efficient, and transparent system. The bill provides that committees shall prepare and table before Parliament an annual report here to this House, setting out the steps that the CHP has taken to implement the system, any outstanding issues hindering the implementation and the effective performance of the system, and the committee recommendations to resolve those issues. Mr. Speaker, this is a transformational process that will allow us to make decisions faster, to strengthen transparency, enhance predictability, and modernize our planning and development approval process. CHPA will continue to work with all our partners to ensure readiness to implement the new system, and we will provide the necessary training to strengthen adaptability. Mr. Speaker, a little under 5 months ago, this bill was laid in Parliament. And almost simultaneously, the procurement process, the procurement bill was published. And at the end of December 2022, following a competitive process, contrary to statements I see emanating from the opposition, a contract was awarded to Global Services, a consortium of companies based in Guyana, the USA, and UAE. And in preparation for the launch of the portal, we had committed to consultations with all stakeholders, and we had committed to involve all stakeholders, and those consultations have been ongoing even as the portal is being constructed. We are just 2 months away from the launch, Mr. Speaker. And I wish to note, and we want to talk about fraud is fraud. Let me make this point. I wish to note that on the 21st of April, that's a few days ago, the opposition members issued a press release which claimed to have concerns about this bill and made assumptions about the consultations and the effectiveness of the bill. But for more than 5 months, my friends across the aisle did nothing, said nothing about this bill. And now 2 months before the launching of the online portal, they seem to have been now awakened from their slumber. But, Mr. Speaker, this government and this minister and the ministry have not closed off for inquiries from the opposition at any point in time. They could have sent those concerns or suggestions to us just like all other stakeholders did. But the release states that they do not want to stymie development and that they support the bill in principle. So why wait until almost the 9th hour to release an ominous sounding release that does not support your claim? And so, Mr. Speaker, in the vein of good governance, last Friday evening, knowing fully well that the bill was coming today, Monday, for the second reading and debate, we received a request for a meeting. First of all, this letter is dated 21st of April, requesting a meeting with the consultant for the single window. I am the elected official of the House, and I am the accounting officer for the region and the ministry. And Mr. Speaker, in that vein, I responded and accepted for a meeting with the members of the opposition. And the opposition then sent back a letter requesting a short notice, but for a meeting on Saturday afternoon. I then responded and agreed to a meeting yesterday, Sunday, and we met at 2 p.m. or 1400 hours and listened to every matter and concern that were raised by 7 members of the opposition. At one time I thought it was a pre-parliament. So, Mr. Speaker, the consultations, and so that is an update of all the documentations and letters that you see. The consultations are intended to bring awareness about the portal, examine the procedures for the ministry, the agencies, the RDCs, and to even receive feedback on the progress made. I am pleased to report to this House that these consultations have been robust, fruitful, and will greatly contribute to the success of this project. Mr. Speaker, complaints from investors and private homeowners in Guyana are frequent about the complexity, the time lost, and the lack of seeming transparency in the existing multi-agencies process to obtain a construction permit. During the consultations, we realized that the entire process for a single building permit, for example, for warehousing, can see as much as 30 activities taking place, implemented by 6 government agencies, and that every permit requires at least 11 trips by the applicant to government offices. The risk of arbitrary decisions and corruption arising from undue discretion is high. And at least 6 of the steps, increasing the uncertainty and the risk of abuse for applicants. There may be also matters of hidden damage to economic activity, which can be substantial. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, having outlined all of the above, reforms are necessary, hence the presentation of this bill. These consultations have revealed that there may not be a clear order or sequence to obtain the authorizations. So apart from the length of time needed when one is applying now, or the lack of clarity that is created from frustration or increased cost to do businesses, we are seeking a construction permit that you will need the following. For example, if cadastral survey plan, you'll have, for example, you have the cadastral survey plan, outline planning permit, building permit, planning permit, environmental authorization, fire safety planning, building plan approval, sewage connection authorization, authorization from other agencies, will and can see engagement by agencies such as Guyana Land Survey Commission, the local authorities, that is the NDCs and the municipalities, and I willfully didn't speak about their role because the Minister of Local Government will be speaking shortly, the environmental protection agencies, and even the utilities like GWI and so forth, civil aviation from under the Ministry of Public Works. Factor in the time and money it takes to chase after all these agencies, and you will have an idea of how we need to improve the system. So in this regard, Mr. Speaker, it is anticipated that once the new system is implemented, the entire procedure for the issuance of a construction permit should take, and this is what we're aiming for, should take no more than 30 to 40 days or 5 to 6 or 4 to 5 weeks, as opposed to now where it takes an average 208 days. This, of course, depends on the location of the construction. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, there will be increased transparency of the process and regulatory oversight. Redundancies will be weeded out so that a more coherent system can be used, and there will be complete institutional and process redesign and reorganization of the existing system. Considering all of the above, Mr. Speaker, the claims made by the opposition, therefore, are baseless and maybe an insult to the hard-working staff and all who have been involved in bringing us to this process or the stage. Mr. Speaker, Guyana cannot claim to be open for business and maintain an archaic business and trade system. A single window system as set out in this bill before us will therefore do the following: make for a more effective and efficient use of resources. It will improve compliance, enhance security, increase transparency, cut costs by reducing the approval timeline by days, cut costs by reducing delays, and equally, it will increase the predictability for every applicant. These, Mr. Speaker, are all good characteristics of a business and investment enabling environment. It is what we are seeking to attain at the national level. To delay this intervention will be to the detriment of our country's development. But, Mr. Speaker, last evening we received a list of proposed amendments, and recognizing to the list there, it is not dissimilar to what the members of the opposition brought out or proposed yesterday in their engagement. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, taking all of that into consideration, we do intend, following the debate, we do intend, and with the amendment that is proposed on our side too, there are two amendments have been proposed, we do intend to send for a brief period to the select committee. Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Now call on the Honorable Member, Ms. Annette Ferguson, to make her contribution. Before the honorable member takes the podium, I just want to remind MPs, if you have your staff having to give you stuff, the sanctity of the members of parliament has to be maintained. Give it to a member of the staff to hand in. I don't want and would not tolerate people coming and handing papers to ministers. At the chamber that we sit in is reserved for ministers, and when the appropriate time is there for the advisors to ministers to sit along with the ministers. At 11:35, you may proceed, honorable member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise from this side of the Assembly to give my brief contribution to the bill number 26 of 2022, Planning and Development, Single Window Systems. But Mr. Speaker, before I proceed further, allow me to applaud the Honorable Member, Colin Crowell, for his consideration and acceptance of an invitation by the opposition to attend a meeting where we were able to highlight our concerns and share with him our intended proposals. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, that such approach, if we were to take it going forward, this assembly would be the most improved assembly, the 12th national, the parliament of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. And it will also say to our citizens that we can mature as leaders when it comes to national issues. So I trust that the honorable member colleagues will take a page from Honorable Colin Crowell's book going forward whenever bills are laid in the National Assembly and we have concerns from this side of the House, we can, meet at a discussion table and share our position. So once again, I commend you for your efforts, honorable member, and your team, your technical team that sacrificed the Sunday yesterday just to meet with us. And I must report to the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker, that the discussions were quite, professional, and it was very cordial. So once again, thank you, honorable member. But Mr. Speaker, I also want to put on record that this is not the first time our nation is seeing a single window system being established. And oh yes, seriously. And I do believe that we should be able to give the then government, under the leadership of Brigadier David Arthur Granger, the applause, because we were able to introduce the Customs and Trade Single Window Systems Bill in 2019. And this bill came into effect after countrywide consultations between 2017 and 2018, where we were able to do widespread consultations and take, recommendations and suggestions into consideration. Mr. Speaker, I do believe when I went through the bill, it is a very good bill. And in principle, the opposition do intend to support the bill. But we do have some concerns, and I think those concerns were shared yesterday. We do have amendments, proposed amendments, and I'm also happy to hear that the honorable member, after much consideration, that this bill will now be sent to a special select committee where the opposition and all other members, perhaps from civil society, can also have their input. And I must applaud the honorable member Colin Crowell for this approach. But Mr. Speaker, I think what is of utmost importance to us here is that the honorable member spoke to the issue of, I think, the company that has been awarded this $202 million contract. It is not a case whereby the opposition is beating up on the government for the approach that they use. I think in principle, Mr. Speaker, what should have happened before the government entered into that agreement, a bill should have come to this National Assembly, and then we do the next step approach. And if you look at it, Mr. Speaker, if I'm to parallel this bill with what is being touted out there, the EID card, of which the government has already entered into a contract arrangement with a foreign company. And you would have heard from civil society that a bill should have been laid in the National Assembly before any contract was awarded. Mr. Speaker, as a concerned Guyanese and an elected member, I believe the time has come for us to raise the bar. Because if you're to conduct business across the government agencies, the time, the bureaucracies that our people have to face, it is not easy. So with this bill now coming before to address a one-stop gap where everything will now be processed and so forth, I think this is a positive step going forward. Mr. Speaker, as I said before, since the bill is going to the select committee, I don't think I would want to derail my arguments further in the House of the National Assembly. But I will await, Mr. Speaker, I will await when the bill is sent to the select committee, we can have our say at that level. So, Mr. Speaker, what are some of the issues we have with the bill? I think we have part 3, some part of part 3, I think specifically section 13 of part 3, that is also in our amendment. We also have concerns regarding part 4, that also is in our amendment. I have recognized that the annual report at section 21, the minister reported that annual reports will be presented to him, of which he is going to have laid in the National Assembly. So this too, the bill seek to address. But Mr. Speaker, before I wrap up, I want to refer to an interview done on NCN by Mr. Anil Nandalal, Honorable Member. And this interview was conducted on April 20th, 2023, under the headline, Interview on Current Situation Relating to LGE 2023. And this is what the Honorable Member had to say during the interview. He labeled the opposition as follows: we're obstructionists than constructive. We do not give constructive contributions. When we in the opposition is not here, the business of the House flows smoothly. But when we are here, we do not, there is no constructive alternatives nor constructive criticism. The Honorable Member went on to accuse us of breaking mace, assault MP, staff of the Parliament. We sing and dance, we blow whistles and behave in the most unparliamentary manner. Now, Mr. Speaker, this morning, I am humbled from this side of the House to have heard the previous speaker before me saying to this House and to the people of Guyana that, well, look, the opposition got some good amendments proposed, of which the government intend to utilize. So, well, I will deem it as good because they're good amendments. So, Mr. Speaker, this would have demonstrated this morning our maturity. So we're not here to criticize, we're not here to condemn, because this particular bill is indeed important to the ordinary people out there. But we are here to put forward solutions to have a robust legislation. So, Comrade Speaker, I want to also remind the House that I have prepared a motion under Standing Order 58, asking for this particular bill to go before a special select committee. And again, for emphasis' sake, I want to say how happy I am that the government has decided to have the bill be sent to a special select committee for further elucidation and clarification. So with those few words, Mr. Speaker, I want to say from our side of the House, thank you, and we look forward to the robust engagements in the Special Select Committee so that we can bring back to this House a well-crafted bill introducing the Planning and Development Single Window Systems Bill, because we do not want a situation to repeat itself, Comrade Speaker, regarding the local content bill, regarding the Condominium Act, that we asked then for the government to have those bills be sent to a special select committee. We have been hearing that it is the government's intention to return the local content bill to the National Assembly. So if you had listened to the wisdom, if you had listened to the wisdom, we would not have been hearing the local content bill will return to the National Assembly. Once again, Comrade Speaker, thank you very much, and I look forward for further engagement in the Special Select Committee. May God continue to bless us, and may God continue to bless our beautiful nation, Guyana, despite the fraudulent signatures leading up to the...
Honorable member, you want to withdraw that? Or have it struck? Thank you very much, honorable member. Ms. Minister Suzanne Rodriguez. And that was a good pound.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to make my contribution in support of the Planning and Development Single Window Bill 2022, Bill number 26 of 2022. Mr. Speaker, this bill is relatively uncomplicated and self-explanatory, but significantly improves the way people access government services. This bill also represents another demonstration or installment of the People's Progressive Party Civic Government's plan and public commitment to modernize our laws in keeping apace with the transformation of our country and economy. This planning and development single window system is part of a bigger commitment our government has made to the people of Guyana and those who are desirous of investing here. We committed to ensuring we introduce e-governance platforms to promote expediency, transparency, and accountability, to employ the use of technology and innovation in delivering goods and services, and modernizing our legal and legislative framework. Guyana has historically had only a modest level of development to manage. However, in recent years, the discovery of significant oil reserves has generated substantial interest in new development. Increase in public spending, introduction of government programs which has stimulated and rejuvenated the economy, and growth in private investments prompted the need to revolutionize the planning and development permitting system. Interest in new development has included investments at all levels, from residential to industrial. Naturally, this has included development related to the petroleum industry, the construction sector, services industries, and even the hospitality industry, with new interests expressed by several hotel chains. Traditionally, the national and local government bodies in Guyana have, with some difficulty, managed the volume of development applications using simple paper-based workflows, with only minimal use of technology to record applications in a database. With the expected increase in development application volume, the government has recognized the need to introduce a far more automated process that streamlines workflow, both within the Central Housing and Planning Authority, CHPA, and with stakeholder agencies that are part of the overall approval process. As a matter of fact, the increase in planning and construction permit is already a reality, with an unprecedented 2,530 applications processed by the CHPA between the period October 2020 to April 2023. 2,328 of those applications were approved in full or in part, and 42 are related to the oil and gas sector. At this point, where Guyana is poised for economic takeoff, the enabling legislative framework is essential to effect and govern how we streamline procedures and how we work collectively as a government to improve service delivery to our citizens. And this bill is proposing to do exactly that. The objectives include reducing processing times, enhanced predictability, and improved customer service. There must be clear timelines, as will be set out by subsequent regulations, and enhancement of accountability and transparency. But, Mr. Speaker, how did we get here? And it is important for our citizens and for the members of the opposition to know what was involved in this journey. So within days of taking office in 2020, we met with His Excellency President Ali and received direction that we must make preparation for the introduction of an electronic single window system and the accompanying legislation to govern its management and implementation. We hired consultants and professionals with the requisite expertise and experience in implementing similar electronic approval systems in other jurisdictions. We deployed the expertise to map and re-engineer the current processes for planning and building permission. We held several rounds of consultations with stakeholders, which began since October 2021, with CHPA staff, as well as between the consultants and senior technical staff from a number of ministries and agencies and local authorities across the country. We consulted as well with other related ministers of the government who have responsibility for the agencies that are involved in this process. We sought recommendations for the development and implementation of an appropriate integrated electronic permitting system software that will reduce processing time and allow predictability. And finally, we identified possible options in relation to legal and administrative framework, which has produced the planning and development single window system bill we are considering today. Mr. Speaker, you heard my colleague go through in detail the clauses of the bill, but I would like to highlight just the main features of this bill. First, it establishes the planning and development single window system, which serves as the single entry point for planning and development applications. It provides for the management and implementation of the system, the legal framework that will govern how the system works. It sets clear responsibilities on agencies and introduces and governs remedies for redress. It centralizes functions pertaining to land use planning and development by conferring the responsibility on the CHPA to be the single point of submission and receipt, to effectively manage and implement the system, and to facilitate the onward transmission of planning and development applications to any other person or agency for processing or review where applicable. It establishes a unit housed within the CHPA to manage the day-to-day function of the system, maintain an electronic database, and to assist users among other duties. It establishes the Planning Oversight Committee, which shall be responsible for overseeing and monitoring the CHPA's progress in implementing the system and to ensure policy adherence. And this is notable, Mr. Speaker, because while the Central Housing and Planning Authority is responsible for the receipt and onward transmission of an application, it does not have oversight of itself. So we have established by law the Planning Oversight Committee, which will monitor the progress of all of the agencies, including the performance of the CHPA. It establishes a planning appeals tribunal for the purposes of hearing appeals against decisions of the CHPA in respect of planning and development applications. The applicant who is aggrieved by a decision may, within 28 days of receipt of the decision, appeal against that decision by notice in writing. The appellant is afforded the opportunity to present his or her case, and the decision of the Planning Appeals Tribunal to dismiss, uphold, or vary the decision of the Central Authority is final, unless the minister declares the matter to be one of public interest. And even this is not arbitrary, because Clause 22, Subclause 6, provides for the Cabinet to ultimately review and decide on a particular application that is declared a matter of national interest. Those main features, Mr. Speaker, are perhaps the most outstanding of the bill. However, the bill has incorporated important characteristics and principles which must be highlighted. For example, this bill ensures strict adherence to the principles of transparency, accountability, certainty, and predictability to the approval process. Notably, it reduces the powers and influence of political figures in the approval process. Mr. Speaker, this is not the first time our government is attempting such a courageous piece of legislation. And may I remind this House that it is the People's Progressive Party civic government that passed the Condominium Act of 2022, which significantly reduced the powers of the minister with responsibility for housing, and placing upon him a responsibility to respond to an application and to make a decision on an application for a condominium within a certain time frame. And should he not issue his decision within that time frame, his approval is deemed to be granted. That, Mr. Speaker, has never been done before and shows conclusively this government's commitment to transparency, accountability, and ease of access to government services. We have demonstrated our willingness to let the system work. The PPPC administration, led by President Ali, is committed to ensuring transparency, accountability, and good governance in all sectors of government. There will be prescribed timeframes set out in the regulations for each agency to respond and provide feedback, to raise objection, or to issue a no objection. These are characteristics associated with a modern, transparent economy, and we are facilitating the transformation of our economy by updating and enacting legislation to govern a country in transition. Another outstanding feature, Mr. Speaker, is the ease of doing business with which this piece of legislation allows. We are fortunate enough to be living in a country that has become one of the fastest growing economies of the world. We can no longer rely on a paper-based system alone. We have to welcome changes which make our work easier and gives greater convenience to our citizens. We have to adopt new innovative ways of doing things. We have to embrace innovation and technology and the legislative changes those technologies need to work. The single window planning and development approval system is another initiative to cut red tape, to eliminate barriers to doing business, and contribute to an enhanced business climate. This system will allow developers and builders to know exactly how long they have to wait for a decision and can factor these considerations as they make plans to finance and execute their development projects. And Mr. Speaker, this brings me to another important feature or characteristic of this bill. And that is that it removes any form of bias and demonstrates our commitment to fairness. And anyone who lives in Guyana or even outside of Guyana would know that a common criticism of our government from the opposition benches is that this government is a discriminatory one. But Mr. Speaker, once again, we are demonstrating our commitment to removing political influences and removing any form of bias in allowing a professional system to work and allowing free access to all the citizens of our country. The use of technology and time frames prescribed by law removes completely any form of subjectivity and even reduces the opportunity for corruption. A government willing to legislate in this manner cannot be criticized as being racist or discriminatory. And Mr. Speaker, I must turn my attention now to the proposed amendments that have been offered by the opposition, albeit at the 11th hour. Mr. Speaker, you heard that this bill, and we are fully aware that this bill was laid in Parliament last year, some 5 months ago. But it was only days ago that we were contacted for consultation with the opposition. Mr. Speaker, the proposed amendments, I must say, we are not aware of the process by which these amendments have appeared. Which consultative process did these amendments emanate from? We have been consulting with agencies and with the public at large, but the members of the opposition have, mere hours ago, offered proposed amendments to a bill that is now being debated. And Mr. Speaker, I struggle to make sense of the amendments that are proposed. And if I may give just a few examples. So the unit, that is the unit that will be within the CHPA, that has administrative functions to manage the day-to-day functioning of this system. The opposition wants the director of that unit to be appointed on the recommendation of the Committee of Appointments of the National Assembly. This is a purely administrative unit with day-to-day management functions of a system. I do not see the need for the director of this unit to be appointed based on the Committee of Appointments of the National Assembly. Further, they want the unit to be comprised of staff appointed by the Public Service Commission. Additionally, the Planning Oversight Committee. The opposition is proposing that a nominee is offered from the leader of the opposition on the Planning Oversight Committee. Mr. Speaker, I struggle to fathom how it is that, or why we would want politicians, we would want the leader of the opposition to be involved in this process. It is cumbersome and it is unhelpful to the functioning of this system. They also want the decisions of the appeals, the Planning Appeals Tribunal, to be subjected to appeal to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Now, Mr. Speaker, we do not have to legislate access to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Every citizen has a right of recourse to the courts. So they have the right to go there anyhow. We do not understand the use of this recommendation. All we can conclude is that this is an attempt to politicize the process, but more importantly, they want to frustrate the process. And Mr. Speaker, that defeats the whole purpose of this planning and development single window system bill. But Mr. Speaker, let me tell you why they are proposing these amendments. Because when not so long ago they were in office and they had the power and the opportunity to pass this legislation, they did nothing. And Mr. Speaker, if I may reference one of the most unfulfilled documents ever drafted in the history of our country, the APNU AFC 2015 manifesto, I refer to page 36 under the heading Digital Nation. And Mr. Speaker, they promised the citizens of this country in 2015 that they anticipate that all of Guyana is prepared for a world transformed by technology. And they said that they would employ ICT in government services for efficiency and effectiveness. And then they promised this digital nation, which is a concept that they proposed. And they said that it is a comprehensive 3-year master plan, carefully crafted by globally respected experts in their respective fields to help prepare Guyana for that exciting transformation. Mr. Speaker, I beg to know where is the digital nation that the APNU AFC coalition introduced to this country. And Mr. Speaker, that is why I can conclude that their proposed amendments is basically to frustrate the passage of this bill. And if we were to incorporate these amendments as they are proposed here, it will frustrate that process and defeat the entire purpose of this legislation. Mr. Speaker, in concluding, I would like to acknowledge and thank all those who played a critical role in the development of the portal as well as the bill, and many of them are here with us today as well. I would first like to thank our Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Mr. Anil Nandalal and his chambers. I would like to thank the consultant, Mr. Farid Amin, who is also here with us, our legal drafter, Mr. Ramdani, and the members of his team, the Chief Planning and Development Officer of CHPA, Ms. Jermaine Stewart, who is also here, our Deputy Planning and Development Officer, Ms. Fayola Azor, and all of the staff of the planning department, the Corporate Legal Secretary of CHPA, Ms. Hanifa Jordan, who is here in person as well, the CEO of CHPA, Mr. Sherwin Greaves, the secretary to the board, Mr. Rajesh Ramgulam, all the research assistants, and last but not least, I would like to thank all of the stakeholders in all of the other agencies, without whose cooperation this would not have been possible. Mr. Speaker, the successful passage of this bill is the beginning of the end of an era of running from one ministry to another to access government services. Something I believe the business community and Guyanese at large have been waiting and calling for. And therefore, without hesitation, I commend this bill for passage in this honorable House. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Suzanne Rodriguez. Honorable members, I think this is a good time to take the suspension for lunch. Thank you very much.
This is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right, so we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one karage, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people, struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we impact.